Welcome to the Unlock Your Block podcast, career empowerment with me, Robin Cartwright. Join me as I empower you to shine in your career, to up-level your life, and to go after your dreams. Let's talk. Hey, thank you for joining me today on the Unlock Your Block podcast with me, Robin Cartwright. Today, I've got a fantastic guest, and we're going to talk about empowerment. So let me get to it. This is Dr. Amanda, who I have been following for some time now. And Dr. Amanda Barrientez is known as the mindset healer and meditation ninja for entrepreneurs. She has founded the Inner Power Daily, an international best-selling author, and the host of the 2% globally rated podcast called The Inner Power Entrepreneur, which I listen to quite a bit. After going from food stamps to a six-figure business fast, it's become her superpower to teach entrepreneurs science-based law of attraction strategies to reprogram the energy and mindset and business growth habits so they can get what they want in life and business. You can learn more about Dr. Amanda by going to her website, innerpower101.com. And we will list that in the notes below so that you can read it and go to it. We'll also talk about it again at the end. So Amanda, thank you, Dr. Amanda, for being here.
Yee-hoo.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Robin. There's nothing more fun to me than talking about empowerment. So
yes, it's your thing.
Yeah.
So tell me and tell the listeners a little bit about you and how you got into this to where you are today.
Yeah, I would say because our topic today is empowerment, I always like to, have the audience engaged and think about a moment where they felt the most powerful. So think about sometime you felt like confident, clear, connected with yourself, inspired, on track. You woke up like with ideas and you're going, I can't wait to get out of bed because I can't wait to do what I want to do, right? That's to me a state of empowerment and being powerful. And my journey started from a state of total disempowerment and having a really victim mindset where I was stuck and struggling and stressed out and really in survival mode, like even this feeling of like threat to your existence because I didn't know I was facing homelessness. And so, I was crying on the floor one night and I had left my 15-year marriage having an affair. My next relationship wasn't working. So my boyfriend had moved all of his stuff out of this basement where we had rented a house together. And I was laying there scanning my life history and going, oh my God, no one's going to come save me. Who's going to help me? I was already on food stamps to feed my 3 kids while I was working my way through grad school. And, I'm thinking, I don't know where I'm going to live. I can't afford anything. I had spent the whole day on Craigslist and I couldn't afford anything. And so I was really freaked out. And I had this moment while I was scanning my life history and I thought, wait a second, I'm the common denominator in every part of my life history. And it was this moment of clarity where I thought, okay, I need to change. And so I sat up and I said to myself, and I wouldn't have used the word declaration at the time, but in my mind, I made this declaration, like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to have better relationships and make more money because I was tired of what I was experiencing and I was really broken down. And so I started listening to podcasts because I could listen on the go. They were free. I listened to them on double speed and I started learning and changing. And as I was listening to these, I was noticing that they were done by coach type people. And my department at the same time was having this national news fallout where professors were leaving the department. And I started thinking, I don't want to be a professor anymore. This looks way too stressful, not enough pay. I'm going to have to move, just so much stress. But I really loved teaching. So I thought, I'm just going to try it out. Like, what if I take the leap once I get my degree and become a coach? And so I took the leap. And in that first year, I went from food stamps to 6 figures. And it's been this really amazing journey ever since, learning how to optimize myself and help other people optimize themselves so that they feel powerful and can be deliberate creators of their reality.
Yeah. Well, so many of us have to go down to that bottom where we're just hit the rock bottom and we're just, in desperation to figure out how we need to change or what we need to do. So
Yeah.
why do you think that is when you're dealing with empowerment? Why do we have to go down to rock bottom?
It's because we're animals and we live by the pleasure pain principle. So we're always seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. So if our life is comfortable enough, we're not as likely to want to change. And so, I always think about it as struggle is the seed of success, because when you're struggling and you feel really stuck in survival mode, you're going to be uncomfortable enough to change.
Right. So we have a lot of women listening that want to empower themselves. They want to move up in their careers and elevate their lives and up level. So how do you do it when you're down there? Like you said, how do you pick yourself up and start moving? I mean, it's so hard because all you want to do is sit and cry.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel for people who are in that current position because it feels powerless and hopeless in a lot of ways. And I want everyone to know it's not. I mean, really, like I'm into my 5th year of business. I've gone from food stamps to creating 5 years of 6 figures plus. I have a happy marriage. I'm friends with my ex-husband. I have a business I love. It's growing and growing. My goal is to impact 5 million people through my company, and I'm on my way to do that. Like, life has gotten so awesome. And so it all started with decision and then action. So a decision doesn't matter if you don't take action on it. And you will automatically take action on a decision that's really powerfully tied to emotion. And so when you decide in that place of stuckness, you just decide, you commit, you take action.
Right.
Can I swear on here or no?
Yeah.
I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I love the term NFA. It was my company name before, and I have a tattoo on my body that says NFA. So it's decide, commit, take NFA action, which means no fucking around action.
I love it.
When you're NFA about things, it means that you're serious, you're driven, you're inspired, you're not going to let anything stop you. And so, if you're at that critical spot of feeling hopeless and disempowered, then decide to do something different. And it starts with tiny steps. It started with me listening to podcasts. It was that simple.
Right.
Just listening to podcasts. That was the first step I took.
Right. So like I coach my clients and I always tell them take one step because they're so afraid. That fear just like swallows them up. So one little tiny step and moves you to the next. So your first step was the podcast, which they can do. I mean, everybody can do podcasts. Yeah. And there's books on tape. There's even going to like your website and checking it out and seeing what inspirational things you have on Instagram. There's so many things out there right now with social media. So just one tiny step, which then moves, I'm assuming, to the next step and the next step. That's how I doing it.
Yeah. I love that you said that, Robin, because I always tell people, and you're exactly right. We get this idea that it has to be some massive shift overnight. It doesn't work that way. I always tell people you just need to know step A to B. You don't need to know A to Z. So just take step A to B, and then C will present itself. Right. And then D will present itself. And then you can have like these quantum leaps where you go from D to, M. And then because you start to gain clarity as you move in that direction and build momentum in that direction. And that's how the law of attraction works. The more action you take with a decision and emotion behind it, the more opportunities come your way that you couldn't plan for. And so it's about getting into momentum and action and building up energy around it. And then it creates this powerful magnetic force that starts to attract opportunities your way.
Yeah. And as you're doing that, you're feeling more confident about who you are. And I noticed that when I felt that my company wasn't seeing me in a way I wanted to be seen, I had to learn about the job I wanted to be in, research it, take one step, which was start researching the job. Then I wrote out my job description, started feeling more secure and more confident about it. Then I had the guts to go talk to my C-level about it, of which I did end up getting the job. But it was 6 months later from the time I took that very first step, which was just starting to research it. So, I mean, it's just the one little step which starts the momentum. But so many times people fall off that momentum. They like get on the train, they're going down the tracks, and then they derail themselves. Yeah. So I see it so many times. I have a meeting with a client. How's your week going? Oh, well, this is what happened. And I said, so you stopped the momentum. You derailed it on the tracks. What is your advice about picking that momentum back up to getting back on the tracks? And if we get back on the tracks, did we just fall down all the way down to the bottom again? Or is it possible to mend it and keep going?
These are great questions. So the way I teach people a permanent transformation is my 3-step formula. It's the Inner Power formula. So it's number 1, recognize. Number 2, reframe. Number 3, repeat to reprogram. So the only way that you're going to reprogram yourself for success is to repeat, which means that you've got to be dedicated and it's a conscious choice. No one's going to come and save you. This is what I think it's important for people to know. If you're in a victim mindset, you're blaming the outer world for your reality and you're thinking that it's outside of you that has the solution. You're the solution, right? You've got to choose to keep doing what it takes. And if you fall off the wagon one day, get back on. It's okay. You're going to. There's nothing wrong with that. You just decide again. So it's about recommitment every single day. And when you recommit, it's you generating energy around it and keeping encouraged. That's why it's really helpful to have a coach or a coaching system of some sort. It could be that every single day at the same time, you listen to a podcast that inspires you. My daily program is exactly for that reason, because I know people fall off. And so getting them, if I can just get them to listen on a regular basis and they can start getting habituated to doing that, it's wild what happens, because they start to up-level their vibe and then that makes them feel good. Then they want to return to it and then they keep doing it. And then that's what accelerates. So it's that first part of change is often the hardest part, because we are habitual beings and we want to go back to what we know. And that's what's safe and easy and comfortable. And so the first part is the most uncomfortable part, because you're training yourself to do something new. And so that's when you've got to be vigilant and very committed to your why.
Right. And, myself as an entrepreneur, I fall in love with your podcast and I follow your daily routines are fantastic, but I'll admit, I don't always stay on them, but I do go back. I get back on the train track. It just, life gets busy and then you forget. And so I have to keep reminding myself. So I'm human too. I'm getting into my little habits and I have to remind myself, but Amanda's great. She sends out these little emails and I'm like, oh, I didn't do it today. I got to get back on that. so it's good. It's really good.
Can I share a strategy here that helps people a lot?
Please.
So this is interesting to think about. Our phone, we look at, they've done research. Guess how many times a day we look at our phone? It blows my mind, actually. Someone told me this the other day. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
50?
400.
Oh my God.
That was my response. I was like, 400 times a day. So whether you look at it 50 or 400 times a day, your phone is your greatest cheerleader. You can use it to reprogram yourself. So I teach people to set alarms that remind them to do the things that make them feel good. And so, it's like when you're starting a new program. So my morning routine for entrepreneurs program, it sends daily lessons on your phone, app-based. So, and the reason we did that is because we didn't want people to go down the wormhole of, Facebook, and then they're gone for, like you get in there.
Hours.
Yes. So I want them to be focused. So it's an app that they just go straight to the core, to the lessons. But set an alarm on your phone for whatever you're reminding yourself to do until it becomes autopilot. So when I was starting to up-level my vibe, I would set alarms on my phone that just said, do an energy check-in. And I would set it every 90 minutes. When I started meditating, do a meditation every 90 minutes. And it would go off and I would just do it right then for 2 minutes.
Right.
And then it started to change the way I felt. And then I would start to crave doing it. And then it got to the point where I don't need the alarms anymore. Now I just meditate automatically. Right. And so that's how you've got to start setting up systems for success, is what is it that's going to remind you or trigger you into action to make sure you stay on track?
Right. And I followed that. I've set the alarms, and when they go off, I have an alarm to go for a walk, and I have an alarm to do my meditations. And they don't have to be these 20, 30-minute meditations. I do 3 to 4 minutes just to regroup. Yeah. Because life is so hard.
Life can be full, right?
Yes. Those strategies are great. So what about when we're in the
Can I say something really fast?
Yeah.
This is fun. Because you said life is so hard. Let's reframe that. Because if you keep telling yourself life is hard, that's what you keep creating in your reality. Right. So everything you think and feel and say is how you are manifesting and attracting to you. So when you notice yourself saying things like, I have to do this, that feels very victim minded.
Yes,
if you're inspired by something, you'd say, I choose to do this. I'm ready to do this. I'm excited to do this. Right. No one, like when I'm getting on this podcast interview with you, I'm like, I can't wait. I'm excited. No one's like, oh, I don't get up and like, I have to do this with Robin today. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk to Robin. This is going to be awesome. Right.
That's
So
right.
you'll know when you're forcing yourself to do things, you'll say have to. When you are inspired to do things and you'll be excited to do it. When you say it's going to be hard, it makes it hard. So a fun reframe there. And so this is, remember, recognize,
Yep.
reframe, repeat to reprogram. So in
Right.
the reframe, you could say, how could it be easy? Like
Right.
I would love to attract ways for it to be easy, or I choose to take easy steps or something, something that resonates with you just to reframe it. So you don't recreating a reality where it's hard. And I say this, I think so many people will resonate who are listening, because one of the biggest money blocks I see for people, or just blocks to success, is that belief that it's hard to make money, or it's hard. Life is hard. Life is hard. Making money is hard. Having a good relationship is hard.
Right.
We program ourselves with that statement a lot. And so it's really important to start reprogramming yourself toward, could it be easy? How could it be easy? I would love for it to be easy. I prefer for it to be easy, that kind of thing.
And this goes back to the podcast before you, where we talked about changing your story is changing your life. So changing your mindset, whereas like I try to get up in the morning to say, I am in the flow. Wouldn't it be nice if blah, blah, blah. And I walk through my day and turn it into a beautiful day. So then I don't feel that strain of, oh, this is awful. When I think about my career, some of the best jobs I had was I was in the flow. I loved the people I worked with. I enjoyed what I did, so that commute and that drive, that didn't even bother me, because what was I doing? Putting on my podcast, enjoying my day, learning about you. It was a fantastic time. And then when the universe said, okay, that's over. Now you've got to do this. It was like, say what?
Yeah.
So then I get that pitfall. I went down. Life is hard. Oh, woe's me. And I think I gave myself 2 days to feel sorry for myself. And then I pulled up my big girl panties and said, nope, get back on it. Yeah. So do you remember going through those pitfalls? Like, oh my gosh, I got to get back on track.
Definitely. Before I started doing mindset work, I felt like that every day. I felt like I lived in the down. It was like pushing hard all the time and not knowing or understanding why I was getting such crappy results. Like I would see people around me succeeding and having money and having these like happy relationships, or so I thought. The more I worked with people, the more I realized that everybody struggles, and you've got to learn how to program yourself for success, because it doesn't just happen automatically, especially if you're programmed from childhood to believe that's hard, believe that you can't make money doing what you love, believe that, there's just so many things that we're downloaded with. And so you've really got to retrain yourself and learn how to let go of the things that are holding you back from breaking through to your ultimate empowerment.
Right. So get out of that life is hard mode. Move into life is in the flow. I'm going to have a great day, blah, blah, walk through your day and turn it around. What 1 or 2 things could somebody keep in mind moving into more of a law of attraction and empowerment? So every time they start coming up with that negative word, I can't, awful, anything negative, what 1 or 2 words can they write down right now to say, hey, I'm turning this around?
I'll say the one I love to use the most. So I teach people Afro mantras, and I teach starter statements. And what you want to do is program yourself with something you 100% believe to be true. So if you're stuck in struggle and you want to move into more ease, if you just all of a sudden start saying, I am an easygoing person, but your brain's like, yeah, right, you're full of crap, then you're creating resistance and you're actually pushing away the manifestation of it. And so what you want to do is start programming yourself with things that are 100% believable to yourself. So I love this starter statement. It's I prefer. Saying I prefer. So if you're saying I can't figure that out, you would say I prefer to figure it out. Right. And it's just a really simple reframe strategy and Afro mantra that I use a lot with people when they're really stuck. And then you kind of move up the scale as you start to believe it more. Now you can say, ooh, I am attracting ease and joy and flow and fun, versus when you're very first starting, you might need to just say, I prefer to feel better. I prefer to be less stressed. I prefer to feel better and better every day. I prefer to have it be easy. what if it could be easy, right? Those kind of things. And so it's just start with, I prefer. That's one of the most powerful. You could also say, I am willing to figure it out. So I'm willing to figure out how it could be easy. I am open to it being easy.
Okay. So I prefer, I am willing, I am open. All right, folks, write that down. I prefer, I am willing, I am open. And we're going to start working on that every day. So no more of the negative. I prefer, I am willing, I am open. Yeah. All right. I love it. So what do you do if you're in a situation where like your husband's the downer or your partner's the downer or your roommate, whomever you're hanging out with a lot, they're the ones who don't believe in this and just think that life is happening to them, that they're not creating reality. They're just the opposite of what you're trying to do. How do you deal with that?
That's such a good question. That's interesting. This question has been coming in from so many different people in the last week. That exact question. Actually, I believe it's today. Yeah, today, this morning on my program, I talk about exactly that, like win-win relationships and what to do when you're outgrowing the people in your life. And so it's a powerful question. It's important. Something that's critical for everyone to know. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So if you don't like what you're getting on the outside, change what's within. In context of relationships, you can't change anyone else. You have no power over anyone else except for yourself. And your outer world, your relationships are going to be a projection or a reflection of you. Now, the interesting thing is that when you start on a growth path, your current relationships are a projection of the past version of you. Right? Because right now in the present, I'm planting seeds for my future relationships, right? Current and future. And so today I've programmed myself to create win-win relationships where I hang out with growth-minded people. So I keep attracting that. The people in my life are that. I don't struggle with that anymore. In the past, when I started growing and learning growth strategies, a lot of the people in my life got left in the dust. Yes. And it was a choice. I got to choose. Do I prefer to keep these relationships or do I prefer to set boundaries and shift so that I can grow to my fullest potential? Now, this is going to be a choice that people make differently depending on the closeness of the relationship, how much there is to lose from the relationship. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this. And I would say as a conscious being who prefers to live a life of full expansion, you can model and just do your thing. And the people around you will either fall away or start to pull up with you. And that's
true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's that's what I tell people, especially like, let's say in a marriage or a partnership intimate partnership relationship, this can happen a lot. And so it's, setting the new context for the person and saying, hey, I'm choosing to grow. Do you want to come along with me? What are some things you can do that? If they say, I had a relationship where he literally would say, like, can you please stop growing? Like, I don't want to keep up. And I was like, well, this isn't going to work well. I don't
exactly.
think so. Yeah.
And I have friends that are, the downers, and I've kind of pulled away from that. But that's a little easier than like my spouse, who, when I started this journey, I said, look, you either get in this or you don't. Because if you don't come in and start believing that the glass is half full, I am going to start leaving. Yeah. And we are going to separate because this is where I'm going. So either you come along with me or not. And he's jumped in hesitantly, but he's coming along little by little.
Good for him.
Because, it just depends. Yeah. Do you want this or not? And it's weird. It will divide you as you grow and become a better person. But in the long run, I believe that you are on the right path in doing this and staying empowered and following the law of attraction and following this. And if your partner doesn't want to be a part of that, it's sad, but maybe it wasn't going to work out anyways.
Yeah. I always tell my people, loss is the gain of that which is more aligned. Loss is the gain of that which is more aligned. And it's because what happens is you actually start to up-level your vibrational frequency. And so there's no more resonance. And so it starts to just take care of itself. It's wild how it happens. And then you just don't attract those relationships into your life anymore. Or the person like your husband must care about you a lot and decides like, hey, I want to be on track with you. I want our relationship to work. So I'll just keep I'll keep pace, or at least keep making, maybe not on the same exact pace, but at least making the effort to stay somewhat with you so that you can maintain your relationship. And so it's a partnership choice. Something you said that was really important is that you said it to him. You set the context and you asked for a new agreement. And I think that people can get scared of that. And it's really important to do because unspoken expectations lead to resentment.
Right. And I figured when I had that conversation, like, your subconscious better be listening here, because this isn't going to work if you keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. And it's listening. I mean, it's small little things, but I see him coming around. He'll ask me questions about things. That we were in the parking lot and he goes, okay, we're going to find the right parking spot. We're doing the law of attraction for the right parking spot. I'm like, score, it's working.
That's so fun.
Yeah. It's fun to do that with people. Yeah. So that's great. I love this conversation. I could do this for hours with you, but we don't have all day. So to wrap things up, what advice would you give the women out there, again, that are just really struggling and trying to figure themselves out and move into this direction, but are saying, hey, Dr. Amanda, it's just not working? What advice would you give them?
Start saying to yourself, I prefer for it to work, instead of saying it's not working.
So they
could go, I prefer for it to work. I prefer to feel good. Now, what's one thing I'm going to do to feel good right now? And just do one small thing. I could be dancing around your house. It could be listening to a song that makes you happy. It could be petting your cat. I mean, whatever it is that makes you happy, do that. And every time you notice yourself feeling off, just go back to something that makes you feel joy-filled. And you'll notice that after a month of doing that consistently throughout the month, you will have recognized that you were off energetically by the way that you feel. Then you reframed your energy. You're repeating yourself to reprogram. Now you'll notice the next month is higher vibe. Even just a little bit higher vibe is an improvement. And then the next month and the next month. And that's all I did to reprogram myself. I'm not magic. There's nothing special about me. I just followed a system, a law of attraction system to up level my vibe and attract success, love, money, opportunity my way. And that's what I love to teach people to do, because anyone can do it. Everyone is an energetic being who can tap into the rules of the game of life and win.
And change their story and change their life and empower themselves. Empower yourself. Go for it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything that you'd like to leave with our guests today?
Absolutely. So if they go to innerpowerdaily.com, they'll find all of my stuff. So all my handles at innerpowerdaily. If they're entrepreneurs or entrepreneur interested, they could listen to my podcast, Inner Power Entrepreneur. And then, like you said at the beginning, I have a free course that's called Inner Power 101. That's a great way to learn strategies to uplevel your vibrational frequency. So many amazing things on my website. Just go to innerpowerdaily.com.
Yeah. And if you're working full time right now and you want to become an entrepreneur, I would recommend starting here, because there's so much you will learn from Dr. Amanda that when you're ready to make the switch, you will know what to do. You'll be at that energetic level, because so many women just say, oh, I'm going to quit my job and I'm just going to go do this. Yeah. And I don't really recommend doing that. I recommend getting into the vibe first. So do this for some time. Work with Dr. Amanda. Highly recommend her podcast. She's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, listeners, you go have a great day and go shine in your careers. We'll talk to you later.